Hello, hi, and thank you for coming and welcome. My name is Mohammed Ibrahim. I'm a partner manager at Odoo Middle East office, and today I'll be presenting managing projects and successful Odoo deployment. So today's topic is very important because it's not having an Odoo successful configuration, Odoo successful project, or call it whatever you feel like to. It's not only about knowing the system and know how to configure the system and knowing how to do customization, etc. Really having a successful project, it relies heavily on your soft skills, rely heavily in your communication, relies heavily on how you understand the project and how do you understand what the customer needs exactly. Okay, so by saying what the customer needs, sometimes the customers will need a lot of features, but their main pain point, for example, was the complexity of the workflow. So rather than adding a lot of features for the customers, you have to educate the customers of their pain point, then you design the solution for them. Okay, so we will take this presentation, we'll take this topic is basically after what the salesperson interacted with the client, and the pre-sale has already created the scope of work and created all the requirement, and now it's the assignation for the consultant. Now the consultant will be assigned to the project. How does the consultant, or like how do the person, the project manager or the consultant, will need to approach this project? All right. Okay, so let's dive into our presentation. Okay, so key phases of the successful Odoo project. What are the 5 key phases that each project has to go through in order for them to go live? Okay, so basically in Odoo, we have 5 major phases. Okay, so the first one is the kickoff. By kickoff means, okay, so now the salesperson, as I mentioned, interacted with the client, the pre-sale ticket was created, the requirement was there, it was all was given to the project, to the consultant. Now the consultant has a meeting with the account manager, and now what they need to do, they need to align, they need to understand things about the client. Then the kickoff meeting will happen. The kickoff meeting it will be the consultant and the project manager with the client. Okay, so the purpose of the kickoff is not gathering requirement. It's already been gathered. Everything was written in the scope. Everything is there. The expectation is there. What needs to be happen in the kickoff with you, the consultant now, you need to define the goals of the project. For example, deadline, the communication panel. Let's say if there is an escalation, who should you report to? If there's escalation from their end, who they should report to? For example, defining the initial scope. Okay, so the only thing that's going to happen from the consultant point of view that they need to do, let's say, a mini discovery, let's say, session with the client in the kickoff meeting, just to define and to get clarification in the points that needs clarification for the consultant. Because at the end of the day, they were not there in the pre-sale cycle. They were not there in the discovery calls, the demo meetings in the beginning with the salesperson. So definitely they will need some clarification on the scope. So this is the only thing that's going to happen. Okay, so let's say, as we mentioned, the goals are set. We appoint the both POCs, because I will need to have a single point of contact from my end, which will be the consultant or the project manager, and I need a single point of contact in the other side, in the client. Why? Because you want to keep one communication channel. You don't want to have different information going to the client from the implementing side. You don't want different, let's say, information coming from the client to different channels in the implementing part. So all of them, they need to meet in one point, which is the project manager or the consultant, and one person handling the project from the client side, and the communication needs to be between them. And then they communicate to the other team members, all right? So this is the kickoff. So after you set the kickoff, after you understand the scope, and you get your clarification, and you define the goals, and you define the timeline, the deadline, how you, for example, as I mentioned, escalate, or like the communication channel. By the way, sometimes like our official communication channel is emails with the client, But sometimes we would like to have a very official form, and sometimes we need to have a something for more ease communication, just like WhatsApp. You can create a WhatsApp group with your client to ease the communication between them. Even a phone call might help sometimes. Not always. Don't leave all the communication in emails with like some unnecessary questions or like unnecessary, let's say, things to be an email. Let's keep it easy. All right. Okay. So this is the first part. Now everything is set. The plan is set. The initiation phase has been done. Let's go now to the second phase. Demo. POC demo. Proof of concept built. So what the consultant need to do right now is, after they got the clarification point, they understand the pain point of the customer. Now the consultant or the project manager need to sit down and see how they are going to design the solution for the customer in a demo, in a real visual demo. So now I need to design the solution. I need to finish the solution, but at the same time, don't make the solution very strict. Make it very flexible for change. Why? Because you want to take this demo as a feedback session for the customer himself. Because after you show the solution, you need to keep very flexible, demo very flexible. You need to keep a very open-ended question for the customer during the demo, and let them talk, and they have to understand how they feel about the demo. And in that session, not only the single point of contact of the client has to be there. No, all the single point of contact definitely has to be there, and all the heads of departments, they have to be there. You need to have each one from the operation, especially accounting and sales, procurement and inventory, all of them to be there. Why? Because sometimes, let's say the spoke from the client side is an accountant. They will care, yes, about the whole cycle, but they will miss some things in the sales, for example. Okay? At the same time, if you have someone from the operation, they will definitely miss things from the accounting. So make sure 100%. In the kickoff, no problem. It's better for them to be there, but in the demo, they definitely have to be there. And even if you want to separate, make it 2 meetings for the demo, you can do it. Doesn't need to be only 1. No problem. Depends on how big is the project. So as I mentioned, second one, POC demo, all the head of the departments on the client side have to be there. All right? All of them. Because you want to demonstrate the workflow, and you want to show them all the tricks and things, and let's say all the features that they can use and the features that they don't need to use. Need to understand each pain point of them, because definitely between them they will have some kind of difficulties working with each other, integrating. So you need to understand how you integrate the system based on their integration in the company. And you might, by the way, you might help a lot. Some of the things in Odoo might help them a lot in some of the problems they're facing outside of the system. All right. So this is the second point. All right. Third point, data and test. Okay, just be clear. Third and fourth point, data test and UAT training, it can be sometimes in some project, it can be different. You can do the training first, then do the import the master data. But let's go with the perfect scenario. What? Data and test. So now what I need to do is I need to get the master data from my client. After khalas, we're done. We built the demo. I had the session, the client asked a lot of questions. They said, I like this, I don't like that. We had discussion, I got a feedback. So I got all the clarification in the kickoff. I got all the feedback I need in the demo. Now I know how I'm going to build my solution, because the client, after the second step, which is the POC demo, they approved. They see the workflow. They said, yes, this is what we need. We want to tweak this, we want to tweak that, we want to tweak this, we want to tweak that. And that's it. Write all the points in the email, send it to the client. Khalas, approved. This is going to be our workflow. Keep in mind, you might change things later, but it's going to be a change request. We're going to talk about it later. Okay. Okay. So the third point, data and test. Now the flow is clear. You already know all the extra field that you're going to add. You know already the field that you're going to remove. You know all the fields that the client needs to do what are going to use on the system. You know all the fields. There's going to be, for example, a specific access right to specific people. You know everything right now. Done. So what you need to do, you need to send them the master data based on their requirement and based on the things that you already discussed with them during the demo. All right? Okay. Sending the master data is not as simple as explaining the master data to the client. So you need to get into a meeting with the client. Again, okay? You need to get into a meeting with the client explaining how the master data or like the sheet works. You need to explain to them what are the columns, what are the rows exactly. For example, if you're filling a many to one field, it's different from filling one to many field. So you need to explain how they're going to do it. For example, the accounting, the journal entries, if they want to do, for example, contact, how they are going to import the tags. Because let's say they have contacts for the customers. Let's say they have VIP customers, B2B customers, B2C customers. So the tags, how are you going to import it? So keep in mind that you need to explain for the client how to do what, how to fill out the master data. Perfect scenario. Client finish all the master data, finish everything, and what? Give you the sheet. And now what you need to do, you need to clean the sheet because definitely there will be some things that the client didn't do correctly. Hopefully they do everything correctly. But let's say you're gonna clean. So you need to clean all the data. You need to make sure that all the sheet is clear because Odoo will not accept any sheet that's not clean. So you have to clean it. You have to make sure that they put the data in the correct form, in the correct columns, because even if sometimes the sheet will be, from Odoo perspective, it's clean, but you need to understand if they put the right information in the specific column, if it's, for example, same spelling for the same the word, because you don't want to make, you don't want the system to create different records for you in the system. Okay, so after the cleaning, after everything, import everything to Odoo. Of course, keep in mind, import all the active data, like contact, opening balances, for example, contact, opening balances, vendors, customers, let's say employees, these kind of things. But historical data, it's highly not recommended to import it to Odoo. It's very highly not recommended to do it because it will waste time. It will increase the cost of the project, and it will delay the go live let's say the go live project, the go live time date. But some cases the client will definitely be very rigid. They have to do it for a specific reason, then you need to discuss this with them. But anyways, in many cases, it's not needed. All right. So after you import everything, now the system is ready. For what? For the training session. Because, yes, as I mentioned, sometimes we do the training before the master data. If the master data will take too much long, so better to do what? Do the training first, then do the master data in order for you to what? Not delay the project. Because between getting the master data, fill out the sheet, it can be, for example, be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month. The client might be busy for a season, in a season, 3 months. So you don't want to delay the project. So that's why I said you can move the training before the master data. But let's say, as I mentioned, perfect scenario, master data is finished in 1 week. Now you get the sheet, you import it. Now the database is ready. Database is ready for the training. And this is why I'm saying this is the perfect scenario, because the employees will be training on the system with their own data. So it will be easier for them to make, let's say, it will be easier for them to train on the system and test on specific data that they already know from their previous or legacy system, or even if they use an Excel sheet. It's their clients, it's their products, product categories. It's the same price list they have. It's the same, for example, payment terms. So it's not going to be complicated for them. It's going to be easier for them. All right. Okay. The training sessions. You have to have the training session. In all the training session, you have to have your point of contact. Your single point of contact has to be in every session, because he's going to be your champion. He's going to be the person that the company refer to if they have any questions before they come to you. You want to prepare this person to be your Odoo hero, Odoo champion in the company. At the same time, make sure, for example, let's say you are, I used to do it this way. For example, procurement flow, purchase inventory, then I do sales, then I do accounting. In the procurement, I make sure the single point of contact is there, my Odoo hero champion is there, but at the same time, head of procurement has to be there. Definitely has to be there. And if I can pull the sales head of department, accounting head of department, it's even better. So try in the training session to pull everyone in the company that you can in the training sessions, so it can be a very interactive session. You don't want to be like, for example, a teacher in a classroom that you're just explaining things and people only listening to you. No, make them even talk, make them discuss things, make them recommend for you things, make them recommend for each other things. For example, the accountant recommend something for the procurement head, for the sales team, etc. All right. Okay. After the training, and the most important phase for me, the most important phase in the project is that testing phase. So after the training, you need to make sure that all users in the company, they are using the system. You need to make sure about that, because if there is only one person testing on the system, and then later after the go live, people started using the system, it will be very hectic, very difficult for them, and even for that person, because he's going to do all the work alone, at least in the beginning. So in that case, the go live will not be successful, because I would rather delay the go live 2 weeks, even 1 week, even 3 weeks, if I'm making sure all the users are giving me a feedback. Feedback can be, for example, constructive feedback. I would like to see this better. I would like to see this, that. I would be more than happy to do a change request for them. No problem. Other than that, for example, say everything is okay. Then once they go live, they say, I don't want to do, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to use that. So make sure that in the testing phase, that they are testing. How do you do that? The same as you book a training session with them, book a testing session with them. Tell them, okay, so now we are in the system. Please tell me, what did you test? What did you see? Log into the database. Try to see what are the entries they did. Try to understand how they did it. Sometimes they will do very things that for you it's weird. You don't understand what they're trying to do. Ask them. They might try to do something for them to make it even better. They were testing. These kind of things will make you understand that the users, they're trying to understand the system, even if it's out of the scope, which is better, by the way. It's not bad. It's very good. All right. After the testing, everything is fine. I would definitely recommend, after you finish the testing in a testing database, create another duplicate for the client to do a clean testing, like a real live testing. Tell them, for example, act as this is the production database, the live database. Now I need it to work. After they finish the work, for example, for 1 week, look at the reporting. Show the report. Do a meeting with the management. Show them the reporting. Ask them about the reporting. With if there's anything is missing, what they think. Are they accurate? Do you need an extra KPI? Because this way you will, all the problems that you should face in the go live, you will face it in the testing phase. Okay. All right. After you do everything in the things I said, then you give the client a green light to go live. All right. So these are the key element or the phases that you need to take care of during a project. Okay. What should your mindset be exactly when you're approaching a project? Always use the standard first approach. What does it mean? Usually we say 80 to 90% of all the things the client needs, it's already there in Odoo. No need for customization. Always, everything in the client's needs, in terms of reports, in terms of payment terms, everything that is there. You just need, for example, to create it, to configure it. It's already there out of the box in Odoo. So always focus on the standard behavior of the system. All right. Single point of contact. And I spoke about this earlier. You need to have a single point of contact. Why? Because you don't want to have many different information going around the both parties. You want to have one channel. All right. And preferably, this single point of contact is a decision maker. Okay. And we're going to speak about this later. Okay. So now I have a decision maker. I'm having the standard approach. So what I need to focus on, I need to focus on MVP, minimum valuable product. I need to focus that I need to get my client live with Odoo standard. Why? Because sometimes client will ask for a lot of features, will ask for a lot of things they don't even need, or they think they need. So push them. Like I'm not saying pushing them as don't listen to them. Look, listen to them. Try to find a solution in out of the box in Odoo. If you didn't find it, then ask the client: is this feature necessary for day one or not? Is it necessary for you to go live? Like, is it going to be a breaking point for you to go live? If they said yes, then yes, you have to do it. If they say no, tell them it's fine. Let's do it in phase 2, because what determine an Odoo successful Odoo deployment is not only the amazing configuration, the amazing customization, is the user's adoption to the system. If the users are not using the system, project failed. Yes, the master data is clean, configuration is amazing, customization is there, but no one is using the system. So what is the point? No point. So always make sure for them to go live with Odoo standard, to use the system, and then later tell them, let's focus on the customization in phase 2. We'll speak about this later again. So the first core, standard approach, single point of contact, MVP deployment, and time and budget. Because if you start asking for customization and Mr. Consultant is telling you, no, I can't, but at the end they say yes, the timeline will be delayed for the project. And your budget will increase, because sometimes after you go live, you find the customization is there. You might find a workaround in Odoo that you don't need the customization for. So that's why it's better for you always to go with either your client, either your partner, either your Odoo consultant, either project manager, or someone doing self-implementation for them. Always try Odoo out of the box, then think about customization later to keep your time and budget to stick to the project plan. Okay, so now project planning and communication. Okay, so each project have a governance, okay? And you need to be careful about the communication. So what you need to do is exactly, okay, so the first thing, you need to empower your SPOC. As I mentioned, you need to have a single lead from the client side. And you need to empower this person to basically be you in their company, to understand the system very well, make them love the system, because once they like the system, they love the system, they will push for it. Okay, so this is the very, very important point you have to pay attention to. Empower the SPOC. Second thing, weekly meetings. You have to have a weekly meeting, or let's say a bi-weekly meeting, 30 minutes, with who? With this, of course, single point of contact. He always, in all the communication has to be there, and all the headers, all the head of department, they have to be there. And if you can, you have, for example, every month or every or bi-weekly meetings with the steering committee, which is the CEO, CFO, depends on how big is the company. You have to have meeting with them too, for them to understand, for them to see the progress, for them to understand how this progress is affecting them, and for you even to see how they're how they like, or how, for example, what they want to change. And because they only care about reporting, all managers will care about the reporting more than the workflow. And by the way, keep in mind, as a project manager, as Odoo consultant, as Odoo partner, you have to have a balance between what the manager need in terms of reporting, and what the user will, how the user will use the system. Because the more KPIs and more reports the managers will ask for, the more complexity will add to the workflow. So if there is too much reporting, more complexity. At the same time, if you did this, users will do what? Will be very lazy to use the system. Will always see it as a very difficult task for them. It's always going to be a headache for them. So that's why you need to keep a balance between the complexity of the system and the KPIs. The more KPIs they ask, try to make it always very automated. It's already there in the system. No complexity added to users, because as I mentioned, you need the adoption to be high. You need the adoption of the users to be very high. Okay, this is basically the governance. And at the same time, you need to have what? Yes, single point of contact, but you need to have a key user in each department. You need to have someone understand the system, for example, in the accounting department. That's why you say key users and department leads. Leads, that doesn't mean a manager, it can be an employee. You need to have someone who understands the system very well, because definitely they understand the operation. They work in the company, definitely they are capable. So you just need to find at least some person who understands Odoo well during the training in order for them to be your champion in that department. So single point of contact, and let that single point of contact create for you another champions in each department. Why you want to do that? To make not only your life easier, even the client's life easier. All right? So this is the first thing. Second thing, it will help you in what? In managing the change inside the company. Because definitely once they have a new ERP system, there will be some resistance. There will be some people who are lazy to learn. Some people will be very, let's say, have difficulties in understanding the workflow. So you need someone beside them to help them, because you don't want to get them very frustrated. Because by the way, the frustration level will be very high in the beginning. It will be very high in the beginning before, in the testing phase and the go live. But later, after they understand everything, it will be very low and the client will be very satisfied. So in that time, you need people to be there for you inside, let's say, the client side. Okay. Okay. So key users and department leads, executive leadership. So you want to align with them in the business outcome focus, which is that's what I mentioned. The KPIs, the ROI, the speed automation, and you need to protect the standard product. You need to, like, every time you have a meeting with the executive leadership, you need to convince them of what Odoo is capable to doing as a standard. And at the same time, as I mentioned, in case the single point of contact is a decision maker, good, we're good to go. If case not, make for them, as I mentioned, fast decisions SLAs, enforce a 24 to 48 hours turnaround on a critical project escalation. So let's say if there is a decision that we need to make right now, at least make for them a 48 hours deadline for them to answer you in order for you to go to proceed on the project. All right. Managing timeline and scope and delivery. All right. Standard configuration versus custom code. Okay. So why do we always say use Odoo standard? Why do we always say this? Because first of all, it's triple faster deployment, because you just need to configure the system, you need to do the master data, then you need to do the training and the testing for the client. If you're adding custom code, customization will have its own, yes, it's the same, but it will have its own timeline, because you need to do the custom code with the technical team. The function need to explain it to the technical team. Technical team need to do it. Function need to test it. Then it needs to be tested with the client. So how is it going to be? Is it going to be in the middle of the project? If it's going to be in the middle of the project, what did you do? You stretch the timeline of the project. This is what we don't want to do. That's why we say if there is any need of a customization, don't put it in the middle of the phase one. Put it phase two, so you can go live. Then you can add it as an extra feature. Okay. Second point, it's one of the most important points, seamless upgrades. because if you're using Odoo configuration, you're doing like only the configuration, some minor customization through Studio or anything. This way, the upgrades from version to version will be very easy. It will be very, very, very easy. Why? Because everything is there. You're just switching to a new version. But if there is a custom code, this code is written by a consultant. Each upgrade, they have to fix the code to match or to be compatible with the new version. In that case, it means what? Higher maintenance, more hours, longer time to upgrade, which is higher cost for the client, longer time to do the upgrade, more time. So that's why you're going to stretch the budget and the cost for the client and for the consultant or Odoo or the partner. All right. Last thing, lower maintenance overhead. And this is a huge winner point for the client and for the implementing part. Because if you have lower maintenance, it means you're getting more profitability on your AMC contract. At the same time, for the client, if there is not a lot of maintenance or not a lot of, let's say, back and forth and tickets with the partner, it means you're paying less EMC contract. So that's why what you want to do is you want to lower the maintenance by having lower custom code for the project. Okay. All right. Scope control best practice. Okay. So as I mentioned, this is the point I spoke earlier about. Challenge custom demands. What does it say? Sometimes the client will ask for customizations that it's necessary for the workflow for them, but it's not necessary for them as they want. It might be an extra feature. It might be, let's say, some optional thing. They can do it manually in the beginning. Ask them to do it manually for them to go live, then do it later, because you don't want to stretch the time and the budget for the project. All right. So this is the first thing. Any requirement outside of Odoo, challenge it, not as you don't want to do it, but you want to see how necessary is it for what? For the client. This is the first thing. Enforce clean data cuts, import active master data. And this is that's what I said. Import all the active data as the data that they always use, the customers, the product, the opening balance, these kind of things, import it. Historical data, as I mentioned, it can be done, but it's highly not recommended to be done. Okay. This is very important regarding the first point, the challenge custom demands. Isolate phase 1 and phase 2. So let's say I challenge the customer demand. They say it's not necessary for me to go for me to go live to have this feature. So tell them it's fine. Okay, so now it's not necessary. Okay, so now what we did, we made phase 1 solid. So now let's see if phase 2 is necessary or not. Okay, so this custom or like this feature or this customization that you want to do, is it really necessary for you or not? If the customer had a very good argument, has a very strong ground for their argument, then you can easily phase 2 do the customization. If not, you have to convince them that it's not needed and you have to show them the results by Odoo standard. All right. Okay, maintain a steady momentum, which is protect the target launch date, as I mentioned, the time and the budget for the go live, because go live is the most important thing it's like the 5 key elements are very important. The kickoff is very important. The demo, the POC demo is very important. The master data is very important. All of them, they're very important. But the go live importance, it's in the adoption. You need to make it very quickly because you don't want the project to be a project that gets 1.5 years in the pipe and the client is remembering, oh, we did Odoo, where did we get? You have to keep it very quickly. Very quickly, clients and the employees will be excited for them to use the system. If they use the system, adoption rate 80% and higher, you're good to go. All right? Okay. Risk matrix and countermeasures. Okay. We have 4 risk, or like I put 4 risk in this presentation, and I believe these are the very important, at least for me. And I put the impact. Scope creep is very high. Decision bottleneck is very, very high. Data import delays, medium high. Low user adoption is medium. Okay. Scope creep, what does it mean? If you're a consultant or you're a project manager or you're in a department or whatever, or let's say you're doing a self-implementation for your own company, and you accept every feature they throw at you, what you're going to do is, because the scope is already written, remember, you're assigned to the project after the scope was written. If they're throwing all these features now into the scope and it's not there, it means the scope is now what? Is not solid. That's why what you need to do is, if there is a lot of requests coming at you and it's not in the scope, tell them, either challenge it to cancel it or challenge it to move to phase 2. Because now the priority is to go live. If the scope is written, it's let's say approved, the priority always to go live with the scope. Okay. Decision bottleneck. Spoke lacks authority of key users disagreement. That's what I said. If the single point of contact in the client side is not a decision maker, you need to always have an SLA with the executive leadership to give you at least, or to give him the authority, or to give him an answer of your question. Because if there is any delay, for example, 3 days, 5 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, you will be stuck in not going forward. If you're stuck, it means you're what? You're delaying the go live. Each day is delaying the go live 1 day, by 2 day, by 3 day, 5 days. So this is very important. Preferably having a single point of contact who's free, not very busy, free. Okay? To be a single point of contact decision maker, or have a single point of contact that is free, who's not a decision maker, but at least for them to report to a decision maker, so that you can have a communication with them, or like you can have a decision making, let's say very quickly to your single point of contact to give it to you. So in order for you to move forward and to proceed. Data import delays, and I put it as medium. Why? Because that's what I mentioned. Yes, you can start the training. Remember when I said in the first slides, you can start the training and you can start the testing before the master data in order for you to avoid this risk. Because if you give the master data, if you go straight by the book and you give the master data to your client, and the client takes 1 week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, project got delayed, it got frozen, it's basically on hold. So that's why we try to always attack this by moving the training here, and at the same time, you ask them to fill the master data. So that's why it's a medium risk, it can be tackled. Low user adoption, inefficient hands-on testing before go live. Just what you can, that's why, as I mentioned, adoption is very important. That's why I recommend it. That's why I put it as a medium. I recommend it to the same things as you put training session and you train them, put a testing session and watch them test on the system. It's very important. It's medium risk, but you can tackle it this way. As the same as you book training session with them, book a testing session with them and watch them, they test, watch them, they're using the system, ask them why they did this, ask them about that, get into the database after the training, or the testing, see what they're doing. It's very, very important. Okay, so now I finished. Please let me know if you have any question. Any questions? Guys, you can use the chat on the right to ask a question. Isn't the client supposed to provide the data themselves? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So regarding the master data, you're not going to fill the master data. What you're going to do is, depends on their requirement. You're going to or you're going to design the master data for your client, and then you're going to get into a meeting with them. You're going to explain to them how to fill it, and then they're going to fill it themselves. You're not going to fill the master data. Definitely. You don't know the information about the company. So you need to tell the client to fill out the master data and then send it to you. But the only trick is you need to clean the master data, and hopefully it's cleaned, but definitely you will need to do some cleaning on the master data just for you to make the import easy for yourself. This is regarding the data. Okay, is there any documents can be shared with us to manage the project? Right now, I cannot share it through YouTube, but the documents that you need, look, the documents that you need to have to manage the project, I think it's, you need to have a project planner. You need to have a project documentation for the scope of work and what is the configuration that you're going to do. You need to have, for example, you can do it in Excel sheet, no problem. You can do it in Excel sheet, or you can do it in Odoo itself using the project module. You can have all the scope of work in the task itself, and you can have all the configuration that you're going to do written. At the same time, keep a section for all the change requests, or all, like, for example, all the delays, or like everything, each task that you're trying to do, keep it there in the file, in the Excel sheet, or in your Odoo project. At the same time, I think this is mainly it. This is what you need. How much time expected to roll out phase 1? That's a very nice question. Okay, so let's say I'm using, let's say, a very simple project: procurement, inventory, sales, accounting. And let's say it's around 10 users, not let's say not 20, 50, no, let's say 10 users. Let's say in the perfect scenario, you can go live with the project if the client is free. It's not a high season for them. You can go live with the project 1 month and a half. You can do it. But of course, if, for example, it has HR, expense, for example, these kind of things, you can push them for phase 2. Always focus in phase 1 to go live with the core operation of the client. If they're rental, focus on the order to cash for them. If they're selling something, focus on order to cash. For example, what makes them the highest revenue? For example, what's the main revenue stream? Implement it. Then do the supporting. Supporting modules, for example, like HR. Even if you want to do, for example, expense app, free appointment, website, these kind of things, let them be phase 2. But phase 1, let them use the system, understand the system. It's going to be easier for them to add things later into phase 2. The best way is for a client to provide theirs, of course. Okay, if the client has never used the system before, yes, they have to fill it manually. They have to fill everything manually into the Excel sheet. They have to do it. They cannot. Okay, is there recommended way? Yes, definitely the recommended way. I always like to do the training based on the supply chain for them to make it, let's say, for them easier, to make it for them more, let's say, interactive, to make it for them more reasonable, okay, logical. I always start with the purchase. For example, let's say they stock and they sell. So they're gonna buy the product, start with purchase, they're gonna store it, then I do inventory, then they're gonna sell it, they're gonna do sales, then it's gonna hit the accounting with the cost, I do the accounting. But let's say, for example, they're make to order. They receive the order from the customer, then they purchase it, then they stock it, then they deliver it. I do the opposite. I do the sales training first, then I do the purchase, then I do the inventory, then I do the accounting. Let's say they manufacture, make to order. I make sales, manufacturing, purchase. If there is things they need to purchase, they do manufacture, inventory, then I do, for example, accounting. So it depends on the supply chain, how they provide the product, how they provide the service. I do the training session for them to make a story for them to make a story, to tell them this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Is there a recommended way to give training? We said, okay. So regarding this comment, the most, that's what we have at the moment, or that's what we collected data. So this is where you need to discuss with the leadership. Because if the client is if the leadership and the spoke asking you for things, okay, they, for example, asking you, I need, for example, 1, 2, 3, 5 to be in the contact, and the employees say we don't have it, so you need to align with the leadership, telling them this is the master data, these information that you want. For example, this is your goal, and this is my requirement for me. This is your requirement for me to achieve this goal. This is missing. You have to decide right now. Is this very important? We can let it. We have to get it from your employees, from your record. You need to align with the employees, or for example, what is the case here? For example, okay. And at the same time, these kind of things can be resolved very quickly if the single point of contact, as I mentioned, is your decision maker. So you can tell them, okay, so you ask for this report, but at the same time, you don't have the necessary information for that report. So what should we do? Do you want to generate, for example, these kind of information in order for you to have it? If you have it right now, do it. If you don't have it right now and it's very necessary, move it to phase 2 immediately. Okay? So even the master data, if there is some data is missing and it's not really necessary for phase 1 or day 1, leave it open, document it, and move it to phase 2. Later, add the field, add the things, and then import it. As long as it's not affecting the workflow. If it's affecting the workflow, definitely they have it. If it's not affecting the workflow, it means no problem, move it to phase 2 or even challenge it. You can even delay it. Hope that answered the question. Where can I find the updated documentation that reflect last changes? The one available online is outdated. I don't believe I understand the question very quietly, but no problem. What I can say is each project have a file in your document app. Okay? Every time you're gonna change a document, what you can do is, for example, make it, let's say, document 1.1. If you change something in the document, you update it, make it 1.2. If you change something again, 1.3. Something again, 1.4. Why? Because you want to keep track of all the changed documents you have in what? In the project. And every time you upload a document in the project app, it will go to the file in the project, in the documents model. All right? Oh, the project budget. I mean the project budget portion is outdated. Okay, so now I'm lost for the project model. Okay, so the project budget, actually it's not something that you update. So let's say you had a budget for a specific project. The budget is not going to change unless you go do some changes in the budget. If you do some changes in the budget, it will be logged in the budget itself, and in the project it will not show. In the project, it will just show the edited budget, like the budget that you set. If you want to know if it's changed or not, what you can do is you can log a note in the project that you changed the budget. At the same time, the log itself it will be in the accounting module itself. You can even take a screenshot and put it in the project. No problem. Okay. Okay, warehouse management system. Okay, we have a warehouse management system, of course, but many of our clients actually they go to our partners for a ready-made solution because they need some kind of integrations with third parties. So that's why we always like to push to go with a partner in case of warehouse management solution or logistics. All right, you know that. Okay, so regarding 18 and 19. Okay, so yes, the inventory or the accounting valuation has changed. Yes. Uh, it used to have an interim account. So in 18 we had an interim account. So once you do the receipt itself or the delivery, you hit the inventory account with an interim account, and that interim account will become zero once you create the invoice or the bill. But now it's changed. Now you hit in the bill, you hit the inventory account and the payable account immediately. And honestly, this is kind of a way that makes, let's say, accounting more simpler because sometimes the interim account itself, sorry, the interim account itself, as much as it's, yes, it makes a very accurate, let's say, readings or reporting for the management, but at the same time, it add complexity to the workflow. And at the same time, you can have it, of course, like you can do the customization, but it's not recommended because, as I mentioned, it complicated it add complexity to the workflow. So honestly, I do prefer the 19 because you immediately, as I mentioned, you hit the inventory account, you hit the payable account or the receivable account at the same time. The inventory amount it's connected with the accounting. So you will, because we usually had this, let's say, minor issue where the amount of the inventory, the total value in the inventory is different from the one in the accounting. Why? Because there are some in the inventory valuation in the interim account. So right now, if you look at it with the new version 19, you will find that the total value here in the inventory is exactly the same in the accounting with one fix in the reporting, which you can, with click of the button, you will tell you exactly how much is missing, and then you can report in this missing amount. I highly recommend for you explore it more, test on it more. Even in the long run, you will find that it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and it's way easier than the old inventory accounting. And it is part of the change. You'll always, as I mentioned, you'll always find some people will tell you, oh, the old let's say structure was better. Some people like me, they prefer the new one. So it's fine. There will always be some resistance, but you need to understand why the change happened, and then you need to see if this change is in your own benefit or if it's affecting you somehow that you can tweak it, can change it, in order for you to proceed. All right. Okay. Unfortunately, this is my time with you guys. I hope you guys had an amazing time. I had a really amazing time. I love these kind of webinar, these kind of interaction. Hopefully to see you soon in the next episode, 5 inshallah. Okay, yalla, bye. See you.